will always stand. E Mungu twaomba uilinde. E Mungu twaomba uilinde. Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Okuvedane dedyodyona, okuvedane dedyodyona, lile kwanga Uganda, nyawani wanyoe kwanga lyafe kwetu lole sizona. Twesimye nnyo olwa Buganda yaffe. Ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyava dda naffe tukikuumenga.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can take up your seats. I'll just take us through the word of prayer just in a minute. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this time. I want to thank you because you've given us a chance to come together. Lord, we knew this day before you knew it. You knew this day before you knew it, and we want to say thank you because we are here to deliberate on issues that are going to shape this country and shape the children of Africa. I pray this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's welcome Abbas Simpindi, the CEO of Media Challenge Initiative, to come and give us an insight on how and why we should have the National Media Dialogue on Education. Abbas studied from Mackay University and went to WUMCAT and did all that and started Media Challenge Initiative with the fellows. Why did he start Media Challenge Initiative? We'd like to understand all that. Abbas, you're welcome.
Thank you, Julius. Hello. Can we have some energy? Hello. How are you doing? This is a youth organization, huh? I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all here at the Media Challenge Initiative. We are a youth organization building the next generation of journalists. If you are here for the first time, feel at home and make sure that before you leave, if you are not a journalist, you have met a young journalist, because this is where they are groomed. And in most cases, we tell them, stay close to the fire and get that connection. I'm very excited for today in particular because we have spent the last 6 or so years working as an education innovation, but in most cases, people think that we are a media development organization. But really, the foundation of our work was to fix what was not working in the media education space. So as a young journalist, I went to ask for an internship at a TV station, and the person on the security point asked me if I knew someone in the media house. And at that point, I didn't know anyone inside. But what I knew was I had the passion, I had the skill, I had each and every requirement that would be needed for an internship. Because for me then, if a security person told me anything, I would just follow. Maybe not today. I went back to UMCAT School of Journalism, and as I was going back, I was thinking about how many other young people every day walk to offices, to media houses, to different offices, and get the same response. And the idea is, how do you reverse nepotism, right? How do you make sure that people get to know as many young people who have the skills and the talent? And that's how we started the first ever news anchoring competition, named after the late Bale Francis. So over the years, we've been, working to make sure that young journalists have access to internship, young journalists have access to jobs, and young journalists have access to training. Which brings me to today. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners, DW Academy, represented here. Please clap for DW Academy. And I would also like to thank BMZ, represented by Ute, and they'll be speaking to us. DW Academy has been supporting MCI for almost 5 years now, and it's a relationship that resulted into this facility where we're seated. So thank you so much. Clap for them. Thank you so much, DW Academy, for believing in the vision of MCI and building the next generation of journalists. So you may be wondering, media and then national dialogue, why are we here? So we started public service delivery reporting trainings. And really the rationale is for journalists, one, to understand their role in covering and reporting public services and ensuring that the last mile or the last pass round in communities is able to get services. So you realize that in most cases, the stories you see about access to public services from our communities, especially in rural areas, is very rare, unless there is a disaster, unless there is maybe a politician visiting a community or launching something. But that's not what's happening on the ground that the world needs to know. For leaders to be held accountable, for them to know what's happening in those communities, journalists must be able to reach those communities and cover stories and also get to document and engage communities. So our work had been skilling young journalists. And the skilling is good, right? But it's one thing to skill someone, it's another thing for them to understand their role in reporting about public services. So that's what gave birth to the National Media Dialogue. That we want to be able to get community voices to the national platform. We have editors here, we have managers here from different media houses that are based here in the capital city. And you also get to see some stories that have been covered specifically from Soroti. And you might say, but would that be a good representative of Uganda? We're using it as a case and be able to discuss the state of education today. So, stories alone are not enough, right? And we as journalists, we can go to the communities and do stories and leave them hanging. What is important is what happens after the story, what conversations happen after the story, what policies are put in place because of the stories we do as journalists. But for that to happen, there has to be a very good relationship between the journalists and the public servant or the leaders that we have. Historically, because of the watchdog role of a journalist, the relationship has not been very good. And we are saying, as journalists, we can spotlight problems, but it's really important that we begin to spotlight what's working in these communities as well. So you will also get to see that. And today, at the end of it all, personally as the CEO, I will consider this a success if in some of the breakout rooms we have conversations between government officials and journalists to understand what's the relationship and how can we improve it, right? And how do we go from here that journalists, or even the young journalists who work with, are able to reach out to government officials and get the relevant information without being told, where is the story going to run? You are just a student. Because the impact of these stories in the long run is that there is really a thin line between school dropouts and the cycle of poverty that you see that a lot of people go through. And all that could be avoided by spotlighting the challenge by the media working together with public officials and being able to have discussions like this so that at the end of the day we all leave when we know our role and responsibility. So our commitment to this is that this discussion will give birth to a document which we'll share with editors on the different ideas you would have shared, and we'll also share it with the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders. The dialogues are a series, so this time it's education. We will also put a focus on health and another issue. We don't decide what issues. We work with community reporters that are under the DW Academy program, and they share with us what issues are happening in the communities. So this time around, we have an issue from Soroti, and that's why we came to discuss education. So I do hope that you have a lot of fun here. And we will put you in some groups, so please participate, share ideas, because at the end of the day, we all belong to this one nation called Uganda, and we have a role to make sure that if this education system works, the next 30 years, 50 years of this country will also look so much better because of the young people that are coming through the education system. So with that as a framing and a starter to the conversation, I would like to invite Miriam. Do you want to say hi to the people? And Miriam has said hi. But do you want to say one or two words before inviting Elena as well? Please clap for Miriam.
Thank you, Abbas. I'm sorry this comes a bit as a surprise. I'm not prepared for that because I was not supposed to speak, but I would like to say hello and welcome to the first National Dialogue. I'm really happy that this event takes place because it is something that we have been working towards for a very long time now. We have started in 2014 with training the first community reporters who are based in several communities in 8 districts now. And they report, no, they do not report, they inform on issues related to public services from their communities. They give the mobile phone to people on the market space, to people on the roads, to people in the schools who can share their stories, and these stories are being embedded into the programs of partner media houses. And today, we listen to these stories also here in Kampala, which I feel is very exciting because how often do we have the chance to really transport these stories to the national level, to the capital? And I am working for DW Academy here in Uganda. I'm based here in Kampala this is my 10th year working in Uganda. And we have visitors also today from Germany. I have my colleague Elena Ern, and from DW Academy, and Ute Eckerts from the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development from Germany. They are also speaking, so I won't take too long. I would like to hand over to Elena, who will give you some more background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Thank you very much, Abbas. It's really an honor for me to be here. It's an honor to participate in that important event on public service delivery. This national dialogue, it is part of the project Uplifting Community Voices. MCI and DW Academy are implementing together with Ugandan media houses. What does it mean, uplifting community voices? How to uplift the community voices? Communities are uplifted when they have access to what they definitely and basically need. For example, water, transport, and of course, education, which is the topic of today. Having this access, they are able to uplift themselves, but they can't do it alone. They need, the national level. It is a national duty. Miriam mentioned before, since 2014, we have been working on the topic of public service delivery, focusing on rural areas and supporting the creation of a network of reporters, of correspondents, delivering stories, like Abbas said before, stories from areas where journalists normally don't go, but there is a need to those stories to be covered. And really, they go to areas that are neglected. This laid the basis for a dialogue with citizens and decision makers, which is something also we find very important. The duty of journalism is to hold those decision makers to account. And now we are going one step further because, and that is something Abbas also mentioned, the national level is so important. It is important to know for journalists in Kampala what is happening outside the city, what is happening far away from them in rural areas. And by doing that, we bring together policymakers and civil society organizations to make them aware of the needs upcountry to deliver better their services. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the radio stations that are working on that. And I'd like to say a special thank to Ute Eckarts, who is representing today the German Ministry of Cooperation and Development. You give us the financial support to do all that, but we are very sure that what we are doing has or gives the sustainable background in order to guarantee public service delivery in the future. So thank you very much for that. And I think at the end of this process, we will have those uplifted communities. Thank you very much. And I give the word to you now.
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to be here today and to participate in this important event. As has been said, I'm Ute Eckarts. I'm representing the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development in Germany. It's called, the short thing, better to listen to, is BMZ. So, and as BMZ, we have been supporting the DW Academy and its partners in the field of media development in Uganda for quite a while, as you have heard. It is very exciting for me to get an insight into the projects now being here, because normally I sit at my desk and don't have much insight in the work going on really on the ground or in the countries. It is, and now my insights clearly show, and we all know how diverse media development is. Media can give people a voice, provide them with information, but also promote constructive dialogue and bring different actors to the table to advance solutions to current issues. That is what we see today. This national dialogue on education taking place here in this room and in the other very nice rooms of the premises is an excellent example. Education is a human right. Education holds opportunities for development, both for the individual but also for the society. Development Goal 4 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development states, ensure inclusive, equitable, and quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. Promoting education is therefore an important task that concerns all of us in any place all over the world. After almost 3 years of pandemic, probably the biggest challenge is getting back to the new normal. What is the new normal? Uganda, as a country where schools were closed for almost 2 years, faces particular challenges. On the one hand, it is a question of promoting formal education, but on the other hand, as we have heard, it is also a question of addressing all those young people who have never been back to school ever since. This task can only be mastered collectively through exchange, development of creative solutions, and cooperation. I wish for all of us that today's dialogue can contribute to these efforts, and I would like to take the opportunity to say a special thank to the team of the Media Challenge Initiative and the team of DW Academy for realizing the event and opening its doors to all of us. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Whom do I give it to?
All right, a round of applause for our partners, DW and BMZ. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. I am a Media Challenge Fellow, and DW Academy paid all our expenses while in the fellowship from day one to the end. And I'm proud to be part of the DW Academy. I'm proud of Media Challenge Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, even as to when we want to discuss about education, remember there are some of the things that Uganda has gone through that we need to talk about again, isn't it? Many children in villages are walking kilometers to go to school. And even when they reach the school, the infrastructure is deplorable, isn't it? Even when the mabatis are stolen from here, they never reach the schools. Those who stole them say, I gave them to a school because it had some issues. I gave them to the churches. The Daily Monitor went to a certain school and said, we didn't find the mabatis there. Who is to suffer again? The African child, isn't it? Allow me welcome. We can't talk about education without inviting a school. So we invited a school to come and give us what they do best. And these are kids who sing very well. I think you can give a hand clap when they did for us on the national anthem. We appreciate you so much. They have a song they want to deliver to us this afternoon, and we want to welcome the Sites Choir. There you go. The floor is yours. If the song is not ready, can we have the poem? I'm told you also have another poem. Let's have the poem as the song is being prepared. Hello, hello, hello. My microphone is on, whoever is in the control room. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Gone are the days when we used to be MDD, and it was time for us to do the poem. And we said, the sun shines from the east and sets in the west. And the adjudicator says, what did you just say? Isn't it? Let's give them another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I'm seeing another Kavera. Kavera, you can stand up for recognition. Kavera does poetry. How many have followed her on Twitter? She's going to be giving us a cappella. Many people know about poets, yeah? Now she's doing another version called poetry. If you listen to her, you'll understand what I'm talking about, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Mandela Madiba from South Africa said, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. Do we still rhyme on that statement? In Uganda, do we still rhyme on that statement? Can education in Uganda still change the world? You still believe in that? Allow me to welcome Dr. Dungu to give us the state of Uganda's education, whether we're still on track or we are all staggering and lost. Dr. Dungu, you're welcome to give us the state of Uganda's education, where we are, where we're heading, and what we assume it should be the state of Uganda's education. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Dungu.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ronald Dungu. I'm not yet a doctor, but I take it this afternoon. I'm happy to be here. I'm seeing all the youthful faces here. I'm happy to meet my seniors, Margaret, Philbert. Happy to be with you. I'm sorry I won't be here probably for long, but I will see what to do because I thought this engagement was earlier, so I came a little earlier. I just want to find out how many people are seated here and they were in the same primary school? Same, so it means you are 2 people, 3 in the same. Okay, how many are here and they were in the same secondary school? Wow. How many are here and they were in the same university? Probably more. Okay, okay. But we are here because we are journalists in the making. So is there a school that is focused, a primary school that is focused on producing journalists? Is there a secondary school that is focused on producing journalists? But as the youngsters said, with the lower secondary curriculum that is changing, we would like to see skills development, we would like to see intentional development, we would like to see particular themes coming through the schools. So I'm here to talk about where we are and where we want to go. I had a presentation, I don't know if it will come on, but as you may know, I'm not going to give you quite a number of statistics, but as you may know, the Ministry of Education, now that you're journalists, the Ministry of Education has the mandate to provide quality education and sports services to all Ugandans. That is our mandate, to make sure that we have quality education. And of course, somebody is asking, are you now providing quality education? Yes. We are intentional. We would like to see quality education. Next slide. Whoever is moving the slides. Next slide, please. As journalists, I want you to know that data in the education sector is very important. And one of the strategies that we have is to enhance the collection of data through what we've called the Education Management Information System. And if you can take away something today, it is this, that we have the digital EMIS now, where we are collecting information on learners, teachers, non-teaching staff, and also infrastructure. And that is key to us, to know even the quality of the infrastructure, technology within education. It's critical that we integrate technology within the education system, despite the fact that we don't have electricity in all the places. But then we need to think, what do we do to bring on the very last school? As I speak, tomorrow we are having head teacher meetings across the nation. And those head teachers are talking about how to make sure that the EMIS system is alive. What is the EMIS calendar and what are they supposed to do? We are creating professional learning communities of head teachers. We want head teachers to support each other. Who makes a school? We can put their school, we can put their teachers, we can put their books, we can put their head teachers, but a head teacher in a school is very important. So as a Ministry of Education, we are taking it on to create professional learning communities of head teachers. We are starting at the secondary school level, and we are asking every secondary school to partner with a primary school in the neighborhood. If we have a secondary school in every sub-county, and we have primary schools in that sub-county, we should be able to pair up this leadership and then create learning communities, impact on these head teachers, and let them learn from each other. We are on Zoom most of the time with those who can, and then they go back home and then sit the others and then be able to tell them, this is the direction of the ministry. I saw somebody with a t-shirt here and said we cannot have development without direction. We must have direction. And the Ministry of Education provides direction. Next. I don't want to give you quite a lot of numbers because you really have numbers, okay? Let's move on. With the EMIS, we are going to have learner identification numbers. And the learner identification numbers are going to track learners from pre-primary all the way up to the university. And we want that tagged to the national identification number of the child as they are born. They should be able to get a national identification number within the health center where they're born, so that we can begin to count. While right now, within the EMIS system, I just quoted this afternoon, that there are 21,892 pre-primary institutions. I did not want to bring numbers of how many learners, because I know that the numbers are not yet right. But the next time you invite me, I'll come here with my computer, and whatever information you need about education, I will have it. Data, as I said, is very important. We look after the curriculum for the ECD centers. We also look after the training for the teachers. I know quite a number of teachers are in these institutions and they are not trained, but we want to let you know that they should be trained. We, as government, do not run early childhood development centers. We don't. but the individuals who run these centers should be monitored, should be guided, and that is what we do. Next slide talks about the primary schools. We have quite a number of primary schools, both private and government, and still I did not bring the numbers of the learners, but as I said, we are collecting this data, updating it every other time, so that data is important. Will we have the slides? Whoever has the slides. Go to the primary, the next slide. 47,508 primary schools are registered, of which 12,491 are government schools. And somebody is saying, why isn't the government taking 90% of that? Probably yes, but we'll be able to get there. UPE has boosted enrollment, and we can see the learners in the schools, and it is now critical to make sure that they learn what is expected to be learned in those schools. And like I told you, the head teachers in these schools, the teachers in the schools are critical, and it is our duty to mentor them, and that is the duty we are embarking on. Let's move to the secondary education. Now, 8,176 secondary schools are registered, and 1,370 of those are government aided. Now you can see that there are most private providers in the secondary space. And yes, the policy is we should have a secondary school in every sub-county. And what do we see now? Of course, the learners are moving away from the government schools and they're going to the private schools. Why? Probably the service in the government schools is not as expected. But why isn't it as expected? The head teachers are critical to us, and we are getting in there. The information must come on table. We must be able to know what is happening at all times. Within the lower secondary curriculum, space, the curriculum is changing. And why is the curriculum changing? Many people are complaining, all of us have been complaining that the graduates of our schools cannot do anything. I'm happy. I've seen gentlemen on the cameras here, and now everybody elsewhere is watching us. But when did they get trained on the camera? Probably after university, like you've said. Why didn't they start at the primary level? Why didn't they start at the secondary level? And that's why we are changing the curriculum. The curriculum still has its challenges, and when you are rolling out a national program, you need to start. When you wait, you will never start. You need to start, and then you begin to improve. We shall improve. We shall get there. And we are getting there. What is important? Mindset change. Mindset change from the leaders, and that's what I've told you. We are grappling with the leadership in our schools, and we are working on it. From the leader to the teachers. And who makes a school? We've said it's the head teacher with the teachers. But who makes the teachers? It is the head teacher. Now, who makes the head teacher? It's us. And we are destined for that, to provide the direction, and we will be able to get there. So you know that there is universal secondary education. You also know that there is universal post-O-level education and training programs in schools. When you go up country, you find very good buildings in secondary schools. But when you look at the A-level section, especially the A-level section, the numbers are low. The numbers are low. One, the parents, of course, some learners have moved to the urban centers, but also the curriculum has pushed the students out of school. I'm a mathematics teacher, and for those I taught, I think I have only one here. Anyone who went to Gaya's High School? Only Diana went to Gayaza School. I know Kabera came after I've left, but my name, I think, rhymes with the stories there. Whoever would come in senior 1, you would go to teach in a rural primary school, mathematics for 5 hours. And it was deliberate. Why? For you to learn the community challenges. When you learn the community challenges, the next step is for us to tell you that you are the leader for tomorrow and you must devise solutions to those problems. So there was a lot of community activity. I was just looking around out here and looking at all the homes here and imagined the schools within this locality. How often do they come out to work and support the communities to change their livelihood? That's why we are changing the curriculum. The class must stop being the forward classroom. It must be in the open space. It must be where the problems of the communities are. We must find education within the spaces of the problems. You would not study mathematics at A level without putting on gumboots if you are in my class. And we are very deliberate because this is an agricultural country. You needed to understand, and journalists, you need to understand where 90% of our people find their livelihood. And let the stories focus on that. How do we uplift the community people? We don't have to uplift the few people in the oil sector, but we need to uplift the 90% of our people in the agricultural sector. And the agricultural value chain is very clear. So as a teacher of mathematics, a teacher of history, a teacher of music, a teacher of English, how do you integrate that skilling in agriculture in your classroom? That's what the new curriculum, secondary curriculum, is talking about. So we are very deliberate as ministry, as government, to transform the education in this country. And from the secondary level, we'll move up to the A-level section, but clearly looking at the primary end. Clearly looking at the primary end, there is already a thematic curriculum. There is no reason why the science teacher is teaching science, and in the science classroom, they are drawing cabbages on the blackboard. The schools have gardens, and the students are not going into the garden, and you're teaching mulching on the blackboard. It is about training, yes, it's about mentorship, and we are getting in there. We are very deliberate, we'll be able to do that. But we need you to speak out, to tell the stories. If there are schools that are doing well, uplift their voices. Tell us what they are doing, bring them through the media space, and let other people learn from them. I would go on and on, because after the secondary school level, when you come to the higher level, the TVET policy is out, and skilling all learners is critical, and that's why you are seeing that even at the lower level, skilling is coming up. So the policies, the guidelines are in place. We need the support from everybody, our friends here. As you deal with the academy here, let's think about the education and how can we integrate our voices into the education space. I will stop there because I have another engagement, but I will come back into the room to listen to the next discussions. I thank you.
Dr. Dungu now maintain. Dr. Dungu. Let's give Mr. Dungu a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Many people wanted to understand where the government is in terms of uplifting seed schools to make sure that they are somewhere, isn't it? Did you receive the state of education in Uganda? Let's clap for Mr. Dungu one more time. Let's now welcome again the choir. They're supposed to give us a song at first, and the systems denied them a chance, and now they are proper. Let's welcome Kennedy High School to give us a piece, a song, and then we shall continue with our program. Kennedy?
Mighty Father, you are holy. We are now before thee. Please hear our humble plea. You are worthy, Judea's Lion, holy Emmanuel, no other name but thine. Mighty Father, you are holy. We are now before thee. Please hear our humble plea. You are worthy, Judea's Lion, holy Emmanuel, no other name but thine. Emmanuel, Emmanuel,
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm seeing another Rema Namakula in the building. Eh? Who is the lead singer of the song? Come here, come here, come here, come here. Somebody get me my wallet. I want to give this lady 50,000. Just give us your name and why you were chosen to be the lead singer for this song.
Good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Katasi Rebecca Mkashaka, aka Becky, and and you know that song. I was just given a chance because at first I loved it, and you know, God knows the reason why I was chosen to lead the part. Thank you.
All right, AKA Becky and not chosen Becky, just to quote that right. Becky, thank you so much. Before you leave, make sure you come to me. I'll give you 50,000. Anybody else who wants to give her some money? And the crew? Anybody else? You guys, I know Mbera and Bina, yeah? Let's appreciate this choir, yeah? Anybody else? Okay. Somebody who is keeping this footage, keep it for me. I'm seeing somebody becoming a big star. Rema was like that in Budo. And somebody said the exact words I'm saying to her. Today she makes 4 million to sing for you on a Kwanjula. Just one Saturday, and she has over like 7 bookings on a day. How much is that? How much does an MP make on a month? We don't want to go there, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to craft solutions to education challenges and to make sure we zoom into how the future will be for Ugandan education, isn't it? We have people in this nation who have studied but never know the importance of studying. We want to play a video of how people in Soroti and how teenage pregnancies has affected education in Soroti district, most especially the eastern world of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, all your eyes on the screen as we premiere this video from Soroti. Nwali right there is going to be hosting the panel discussing Uganda's education achievement, opportunities, and solutions. But as of now, let's get into the video and understand how education and teenage pregnancy in Uganda is hugely affecting it. Production.
As some school dropouts remain staying together with their parents, this is not the case with Rebecca. School dropouts remain staying together with their parents. This is not the case with Rebecca Alabo. Alabo, a resident of Awoja, Anganya village in Aukot sub-county, Soroti district, dropped out of Gweri Secondary School when she was in senior 2. Alabo, aged 21 years, was rejected by her father, including other relatives. Her worst situation started when she dropped out of school due to pregnancy in 2019. She was 17 years old, a single mother of 1 child of 4 years. Alabo was chased out of their home by his father and was again rejected by her auntie's husband, where she had rushed to take refuge. A 6th-born of 8 children, Alabo was finally offered accommodation and meals by a well-wisher who felt bad about her situation. As if that was not enough, during her labor pains, she again faced a challenge of transport to the health facility, problem of feeding and baby sheets, no relative bother to accompany her to Soroti Regional Referral Hospital. She remained stigmatized and rejected, where she thought of committing suicide.
Nothing tortured me. They chased me out. I had to sleep outside. Biting me, he told me that no, with your whom you're eating a lot of food. If there is a problem, we are now going to start locking you inside the house. Now when it was the time for giving birth, things we had. I didn't have things for carrying the baby. I was helpless. They got the only bed sheets and they divided for taking me to the hospital. So after that, things were not okay.
She went and pleaded to her mother to allow her return home, but the father still insisted to chase Alabo and her mother Betty Abunyo, who is living positively with the HIV/AIDS virus. They lived a horrible life elsewhere for 6 months, but only managed to return home after her father's death. Abunyo, Alabo's mother, says she
Have a seat right here. Let me talk to you while you're seated. You're a very important person.
Thank you.
Have a seat, please. Leah, take us through what happened to Alobo after you've covered the story.
So, once more, my name is Yolo Leah. I'm a community reporter from DW. So, some of you may ask the question that why Alabo? But Alabo had a very, very appealing story when she dropped out of school. Alabo was a bright girl. She loved mathematics and science. She dropped out of school when she was in senior 2. Just because she never wanted to drop out. But what was the problem? It was due to poverty. Alabo used to foot over 7 miles to school, where she was convinced by a certain man who claimed that he was a rich man. He could come driving his car, that I am a rich man now. Come, be parking your bicycle or come on the roadside. Stay there. I'll come and pick you with my car. I drop you to school. She was convinced like that. After, this lady conceived.
This
girl conceived. When she conceived, she went to the man that things are not well now.
Was the car still there?
Pardon? So, from that time up to now as we talk, Alabo doesn't know where the vehicle has gone. The phone number, the man changed, the phone number is not available. Even that day when I was communicating to her, I told her first bring the number we tried to call, but it was not on. So, as Alabo was from a poor family, the father, I think the parents and the relatives, who were trying to go and labor in some people's gardens to get money for buying books and paying half school fees. The father felt bad and chased this lady out of school. This girl out of home. So when she was chased out of home, she went to her auntie's place, whereby the husband to the auntie also rejected her. Alabo was helped by the well-wisher who felt bad about her situation. She was given accommodation and meals. But the worst bit of it, during her labor pains, the well-wisher also told her, I've done my part, so continue now from there. So the access to the health facility was hard. No transport, no even baby sheets. Alabo decided to go and sat on the roadside, waiting for any person who will help her to take her to the hospital. Indeed, a man came as she was in pain. She could not remember his name. So a certain man came, dropped her up to Soroti Regional Hospital. Reaching there, she underwent an operation, but was successful. Before that, she was asked to pay, a doctor asked her to pay some 350,000 for operation, but Alabo didn't have the money by that time. But I think the doctor also felt bad about her situation. She was operated. Then now what what to use for welcoming the newborn. Alabo had no baby sheets. So the mother to Alabo now came with the 2 old bed sheets and divided for carrying the baby. So when they were discharged from the hospital, back home, still the dad insisted, chased all of them out of home. So Alabo's mother, who is called Abunyo, moved with her daughter to their home in Aukot, to the mother's home in Aukot.
Fast forward, is the kid okay and is Alabo okay now?
The kid is okay. The kid is now 4 months.
Oh.
I mean 4 years.
4 years, okay.
Alabo is also fine. She's now finally back to her home. But unfortunately, the dad passed on. They only came back home after her father's death.
Was it a blessing in disguise?
I'm not sure, really.
I'm just trying to think outside the Roman box.
They are now at home with the mother.
Nobody will chase them.
No, because the dad, who was tough on her, passed on.
Okay. Did Alabo has plans of returning to school?
As we talk right now, Alabo is very willing to go back to school if she is given that opportunity. She is very ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand clap to Leah. I think Leah has a talent of storytelling. Storytellers move with books. They don't want to miss out any point. Uganda holds the record of having the youngest grandmother at the age of 14 years. That girl is in Mbale. At the age of 14, she's a grandmother. Daily Monitor did that story. NBS did that story too. Honorable, am I lying? At the age of 14, she's a grandmother. How? How? Ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing teenage pregnancy. On the 14th of, I think, July 2018, Daily Monitor produced a story. It shouldn't be 14, but I think she's 21. And her daughter, who is 14, also produced. Her daughter, who is 14, also, but it was 2018. Yes. And in 2020, NBS ran that story when the kid who produced at 14 died while giving birth to a 4th child. She got pregnant when she was 10. By 14, she was having her 4th child and died. So she died while giving birth to her 4th. She's in Mbale. When you reach Mbale and ask for that lady, they will take you to her. So Uganda holds that record in Guinness Books of Records. Yeah? So teenage pregnancy has become a toll on Uganda's education. Why I was asking Leah whether Alobo has a dream of going back to school, seems every girl who gets pregnant, on 100%, only 2 return back to school after getting pregnant. Only 2% on 100. And that has become a song for so many women after getting pregnant. Even at the university, you've studied with girls after getting pregnant. The husband says, why are you going back to school? Before she knows, second one. Yeah? And in secondary, it's worse because you're ridiculed, isn't it? It's becoming a toll on Uganda's education. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome Rahim Nwali. But before that, we want to have a solution story. As many girls elsewhere are suffering, in Jinja specifically have gotten a solution to how things are going to be done. Girls who were stopped over in trading centers, confused by border men, not to go back to school, maybe after school, or even going to school, to stop somewhere, have an affair, and go to school. Jinja has gotten a story to tell, and Dan Ayebare, where are you, Dan Ayebare? Let's welcome Dan, everybody from Solutions Now Africa. Dan, just come and have a seat. Dan, everybody did a story of how Ginger is changing the narrative of how girls go to school and how the rate at which teenage pregnancy is being handled in Ginger. In production room, Dan, just take any couch where you want to sit, any pallet if you want, or you sit right there. Production, give us a story from Dan. We watch it for only 3 minutes and we'll engage Dan on how he managed to pitch this.
Almost every rural household in Uganda owns this two-wheeled machine. Can this rudimentary item truly shape the destiny of a young girl? Can its impact reach beyond the mundane routines of daily life and pave the way for a brighter future?
Today, if someone gave their story about how a bicycle has enabled them to access school and has transformed their lives, even if your mind is like negative, you will start seeing a bicycle in a different angle.
I believe many girls can stay at school when given necessary support.
Ginger City, Eastern Uganda. It is one of Uganda's biggest industrial hubs. However, venturing off her rural side unveils an entirely different perspective of life. My name is Dan Ayebale. Today, my interest is about the state of access to education in this district. There are many factors to this, but let's examine the home-to-school distance. Here is the picture. There are only 12 secondary schools to serve 326 rural administrative units, which you can call cells or villages in Ginger district. Quick math. That's one secondary school to serve approximately 27 villages. Take an example of Lubani Secondary School, located in Butagaya sub-county, 5.2 kilometers from Doreen Nandas's home. To and from school, it means she has to cover over 10 kilometers every day.
Kuba mailo twali mumpanvu okutwala omwana oyo ku isomero ng'omwana atuuka leeti bamugema leeti era nga gavita essaawa namba kitundu ng'atambwire kuba emailo diriwo.
There is though a new ray of hope since a local organization named Fabio gave her a bicycle to facilitate her journey to school.
Essaawa eno omwana atuuka mangu ku isomero era ebaire n'omugaso munene era tufunyemu. Dakiika 3 aba atuuse ku isomero era tankobanga kwati bamugemye leeti. Eripooti nze nsanufu.
Glucose has 6 carbon atoms. When we put here our 6, where N is equal to 6, we can have C6, Ag, 12, or... You look at the distant places from this school. This is one government school in almost this sub-county, relatively cheap. But the distances, many of these girls do not make it without these bicycles. But one who comes to school early, it has an advantage when a student comes to school early. One will have to revise the previous work, tries to comprehend. Say, comes here by 7 and lessons begin at 8. So that extra time added is of value to that child.
Before I go to that bicycle, by then I got outstanding, basic, moderate, but now I got outstanding.
Lubani Secondary School is defying the odds with an enrollment of over 70% girls, a remarkable figure when compared to the gender demographics of most schools in Uganda. In a typical Ugandan school, it's not uncommon for boys to outnumber girls. The question arises, could the bicycle project have played a role in achieving this exceptional statistic?
Can we confirm that partly the reason for the increase in enrollment is such a program from Fabio?
Partly. We wouldn't say it is
not
fully.
Yes, like I said, partly. Can we really
partly we can say that has enabled the girl child to
why?
To stay in school and maybe catering for that percentage. Our part is mainly to identify those who have challenges of coming to school, distance-wise and even poverty level. So we as in charges of the school, we know these learners. So that one is coming late every now and then. Their families who are struggling to make them to be in school. So we come up with that, and then Fabio supplements.
Under the Cycle to School project, an education empowerment program, Fabio is addressing student dropout.
So, why ginger? We are always on the lookout for what is working in our societies because we believe that the mainstream media covers most times the problems, and we thought maybe to balance it, we can always go out to see what is working. So for this case, we headed out to Ginger to cover this, this solution, or maybe you can call it, solution, which is being fronted by Fabio, which is a non-government organization. And the reason why we chose Ginger, Usoga region has educational challenges that are so unique to that region only, because most times the children get lost in on sugarcane plantations, and many people, many organizations, many individuals are heading out to Usoga to fix such problems, of which Fabio is one of them, where they're providing bicycles to the girls. Just to cut you short or interrupt you. What is the condition like on ground? Is there impact after these bicycles have been given to these girls to go to school? Is there another downfall of how pregnancies are being handled right there? Yeah, I think you noticed that they said that 70% like in that school are girls, and that's rare for a typical school in Uganda. So I think that's an indicator of how maybe such bicycles, like the head teacher says partly how bicycles are helping maybe to fix the problem of girls drop out. So yes, on the ground, it is clear that girls are being helped. You may ask how are boys being helped? It's a topic for another day. You want to mentor a girl, but who distracts a girl? Who distracts a girl? I want to clarify that Leah comes from community reporter of DW Partner Academy. Yeah? He's not a reporter for DW. She's a community reporter of DW Academy Partner and ETOP Uganda, a subsidy of New Vision. Thank you so much, Dan Ayebare from Solutions Now Africa. Let's give another round of applause for Dan Ayebare. Dan, we appreciate you so much for those efforts in the team, and we wish that you do more Solutions Now stories, and of course, speech for more funding. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now welcome Kabera. Kabera, you ready? I want to have a glimpse of how Sowetry is done. Kabera will give us a song of about 3 minutes. Sowetry of about 3 minutes. And then we shall cross over to Rahim Nwali to take us through the panel of so many intelligent and awesome panel. Kabera?
Good afternoon. Is this on? Can you hear me?
You can use this one.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Julius is one of the few people who pronounces my name correctly. Even I can't. Before I perform, I would like to share something, food for thought, or something that I've been reflecting on as I heard you all speak. One of my worst proverbs, since I learned it in P4, was experience is the best teacher. Why? Really? Because as I've grown older, the hatred for that proverb has grown, because it's used when you go for a job, entry level, fresh out of university, they're asking for how many years of experience? 3? Yes. 3 years of experience, but you're fresh out of uni, right? Which doesn't make sense. But I wanted to play around with that, so I wrote a little stanza. I was listening. And I just want to throw it to you guys. Experience is the best teacher. So you'll forgive me if I don't bow in awe of your first-class degrees and so-called PhDs. I have seen engineers driving DMCs, architects building houses to be constructed in swamps, members of parliament, diplomats, ambassadors, breaking traffic rules in their air-conditioned, carbon-emitting cars. Experience is the best teacher. And in today's lesson, I have learned that there's a difference between being educated and a difference between going to school. Just a little food for thought. That wasn't the performance, just school for mic check. Before I perform, I like to pray, and I would like my audience to pray with me to whichever God you believe in, or object, or whatever, You never know these days. So let's bow our heads and pray. Oh, Mukama tuyambe kubange nsi yaffe Uganda entabudde. Oh, Mukama tuyambe kubange nsi yaffe Uganda entabudde. A certain bishop in a certain county, a certain parish, a certain country is of the view that teenage mothers should not go to school. Now, when it comes to society, when it comes to men and systematic patriarchy, it has got to be the audacity for me. I'll give this bishop a benefit of the doubt. Maybe the church has denied him a wife. Maybe he has no daughters or sisters to care for. Therefore, throwing 32,000 girls out of school per month is a piece of cake. When it comes to society, when it comes to the patriarchy in systems like education, it has got to be the audacity for me. But you see, those numbers don't scare me. Because when it comes to the girls and women in my country, it's the strength for me. Those are just 32,000 songs of victory, because when it comes to the learners in my country, we will rise, and we will rise up. We will rise. Let's take these teenage mothers back to school. Thank you.
I think that clap was meant for me. Let's clap for Kabera. When we talk about poetry, that's what I meant, ladies and gentlemen. The hashtag on Twitter is Media Dialogue UGM for capital, D on dialogue is capital as well. and UG. The U is capital. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to appreciate you so much for being part of this conversation. But let me now hand over to Rahim Nwali to take us through the panel, which is going to be discussing on education in Uganda, achievements, opportunities, and solutions to meeting national commitments and SDG 4. Over to you, Nwali.
Mic check.
Nwali, if you're ready, let me know.
Mic check. All right. Thank you so much, Julius. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Ms. Alobo Rebecca. Alobo is a community-based journalist in Soroti who was supported by the DW Academy to do a story. And we want to thank you so much because part of the reason why we sit here is to weave out ways on how we can have these conversations and stories to the national agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever National Media Dialogue on Education. My name is Rahim Nwali, and I'm super delighted to be hosting the conversation in which we'll be speaking about the opportunities, the challenges, and the solutions to the big, big problems like those that we just saw in those stories. And with me today, we will be speaking with a team of panelists. We'll be speaking to Dr. Patricia Litho, who is from Makerere University, and I will kindly request her to take up her space and sit. We will also have Mr. Patrick Kavoyo, who is the Secretary from the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions. We will be speaking to Ms. Brenda Namata, who is from the Uganda Media Women's Association. We will be speaking to Bob Owinyi, who is the District Councillor in Soroti, who will be joining us online. And we will be speaking to Dr. Philbert Baguma, who is also the Secretary from the Uganda National Teachers Association, and Imani Shimwe Ronald from the Uganda Youth Forum, which is part of the First Lady's office. I will kindly request those people to kindly come and take up their seats so we can kickstart on this very important conversation. And this is how we will, have it. We will have the panelists speak to us, and then later we'll open the conversation to the plenary. You can contribute, kindly jot a few things that you might need to ask to the different speakers. Thank you. Perhaps we'll give them a second to take up their seats. All right, I've been informed that Mr. Kavoyo Patrick, the Secretary from the Federation of Non-State Education Institution, is not with us today, sadly. Thank you so much for being with us. There's a speaker online. If you could just, the production team, if you could just elevate that picture perhaps to the front. I would like to start with him. But before that, I would love to ask the panelists to introduce themselves in just a minute or two so that we know the different capacities and the people that we are talking to. I will start with you, perhaps, gentlemen.
Thank you. My name is Leonard Manshimwe. I'm the Executive Director of the Uganda Youth Forum. I'm also the Vice Chairperson of the Education Advocacy Network. And of recent, I've been involved in training journalists on public service delivery reporting. It's a pleasure to be part of this dialogue.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Namata, and I work with Uganda Media Women's Association as the Communications and Advocacy Officer. Uganda Media Women's Association champions the gender agenda in the media, and therefore we do advocate and promote for equal representation and visibility of women's voices in the media content. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Baguma Philbert Bates, the General Secretary, Uganda National Teachers Union. I'm glad to be part of this dialogue.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I'm Patricia Litho. Can I just correct, I'm no longer at Makerere University. I was there once, but I'm still an academic and researcher, and I'm board chair for Uganda Media Women's Association, very interested in capacity building. And Brenda's done a good job introducing the association. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Make my way the other side.
Thank you. The production team, do we have Bob Awinyi online? All right, perhaps as they work hard to get us Mr. Bob Awinyi, I would love to start by perhaps giving this whole conversation alive. These stories that we just watched are just statistics when they're so close to us, isn't it? We have seen so many problems. We have seen numbers of children dropping out of school. We had a time like Kabira was speaking. There were some mixed reactions from the church when government was asking that pregnant girls back to school, and so much was being told. And perhaps I would love to start my conversation there with you, Mr. Philbert. Do we still have education as a public good, or I mean, I don't see how. And the reason I say is Uganda has significant success in higher education, with remarkable increase in university enrollment. And so how can we sustain higher education? And how can Ugandan graduates better prepared to effectively meet the requirements of the market?
Yeah, thank you very much. Education remains a public good. Education cannot be taken like any other commodity. Where you go to the market, to the shops and get it. And therefore, what remains is for us as citizens to demand and make sure that education remains a public good. And the responsible centers play their roles. Because the Constitution of Uganda places the mandate of educating Ugandan children in the hands of government and the parents. And therefore we have to guard against that constitutional provision. When we look at higher education, yes, very many students have gone to these institutions. The question remains: these products come out of these institutions and remain unemployed. So the question is why? If they have gone to school, they have studied, why do they remain unemployed? We need to go back to the drawing table and look at what is it that the students are subjected to learn versus what is outside in the market. What is it that the market demands from them? We have scenarios where students even go to these universities, tertiary institutions, but when they are looking for internship, they are running everywhere, and institutions are not allowing them to do internship. But at the end of the day, we want experience. And even those institutions which are not allowing them to do internship are the same institutions which demand to say what is your experience when you have finished the university. And therefore there is a need for us as a country, as citizenry, to make sure that there is that collaboration between education institutions and the employers. To make sure that when you are studying, for example, if there is an institution within this locality, How is the institution connected to the employers who are within this locality? So that the students can even have time off from the class to go and start practicing what they are studying. At the end of the day, it benefits both the students and the employers. But also on the courses which we teach in these universities, we need to look at what is it that is needed in the market. Not necessarily what you are going to study, then you go out and to whom it may concern. Because it takes a lot of resources for you to produce these graduates. And therefore consideration should be make sure that what you are producing is what is needed in the market. And then a waiver on this experience. We get experience through working. Now you are fresh from the university, and they are saying, please, what is your experience? Where do I get the experience? I am from school. I have the qualifications you need other than the experience. So can we have that collaboration between employers and the institution, so that even by the time you leave school, by the time you leave the university, you already have potential area where you can go and start practicing and gain experience as you work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Leith, do you want to speak a little bit more about the nature of education that you're having vis-a-vis what is required in the market?
Yes. Reality is at the moment, the way we teach, the way we educate our citizens, our children, is detached from the employment market. And when he started to speak, he kept asking why people can't get employment. And continually, one of the challenging aspects have been, why are they looking to be employed? Why don't you create employment? Do we train our graduates, our students, to create, to innovate? Personally, looking at my own experience at school, I think innovation was stifled. And so you have to toe a certain line, and you grow up thinking like that. So if you look at the review of the curriculum, let's say for secondary education, O-level particularly, you'd see that I think there's beginning to be an appreciation of the experience he's talking about. And when people ask experience in the job market, what do they mean? I think the curriculum should incorporate a practical aspect. Mass communication that I've been teaching at Makerere University is very theoretical in nature. And personally, when I left Makerere, the first place I went to was, by then it was called Radio Uganda, now it's UBC. And the issue was always, we prefer students from such and such an institutions because they have a practical element. Quickly, what I did is to go to Uganda Management Institute that had a journalism diploma where they offered the practical training. Much as I'd learned all the theories about a camera, the shutter, white lighting, I just couldn't do those things. The first time I went to a dark room was in Uganda Management Institute. So you see there's that detachment. And many times when young students approach me and sort of ask, where do you think I should go for training, for internship? Sometimes I send them to places they find surprising because of the way we view the practical nature of things. And again, referring to his presentation, the issue about experience. I think if we incorporate actual practical experience in our curriculum and then partner with employees to appreciate that that equates to experience. For instance, at Uganda Management Institute, for instance, we had an actual magazine where we were taught how to write, and we had to write and publish and distribute. I know that in Makerere we had one, but it was optional. It actually belonged to the Students' Association of the Journalism School, personal initiative, but it wasn't deliberate. When you want to learn how to do advertising, it is all theoretical. I know I taught some of those things, but I had to learn my practical aspects when I left university, and it was personal initiative. Because everywhere, everyone is asking you for experience. So where do you get the experience from? Just yesterday, I was actually having a conversation with the managing director of the New Vision, Don Wanyama, and I was asking, can New Vision, for instance, knowing it's one of the best brands in the media, offer a sort of practical training, knowing most of us are products of Makerere. Of course, there are so many institutions now offering mass communication, but unfortunately, they all sort of replicate what Makerere does. I mean, it's sort of a yardstick of how we train. But when we go to the market, nobody's asking for theories, I don't know, of communication and things like that. They're telling you, write a story. This is not a story. This is not news. Did you learn the inverted pyramid by any way? Yes, you do, but you know it's one of those quick things. But when it comes to the theoretical aspects, so that practical application of aspects is lacking in our education. And you can see what COVID taught us. I know it sounds cliche to refer to COVID, but I think that's when a lot of us began to appreciate certain things we've been talking about, incorporating technology in the way we teach and things like that. But of course, it has all these other realities and challenges of access, affordability. Even as the trainers, are you techno-savvy? How about the other side? You know, parents, we are used to dumping our kids to the teachers. Now there was a huge demand on parental participation. I'm a trainer, but it was so painful to have to supervise my boys to attend online classes. And for one of them, I just protested. By then, he's now 5. By then, he was a 3-year-old. I'm like, he doesn't even listen to me when I do a video call. How is he going to listen to somebody else learning? So that one, I just opted out. And then the other one, who was a P6 pupil at that time, now he's in S1, he struggled. And you know, the kids are more technical savvy than us. He played so many tricks, you know. I learned a lot during that period. The kids play tricks, the way they mute, minimize things, they're not listening to the teacher. Then the teacher is calling you, is Danny online? Because we see him, but we are calling him to answer. I'm like, I also have things I'm doing. I'm employed. I'm possibly in a Zoom meeting trying to shush the kids, and I have to, you know, like it's so demanding. The new dynamics that COVID brought, the possibilities that technologies are providing, but what are the realities, the practicality of it? And we have to think through all this, but also accessibility. Maybe I can afford to give this to my children, the challenges stated aside. How about the other people who can't? So many people were denied education because they couldn't afford gadgets. And it's not enough to just have a computer or an iPad or a phone. You have to buy the data. You know, it seems so easy, but it becomes a pain. You know, always, and kids really use a lot of data. The amount of money you spend on buying data. And then the infrastructure. You spend so much on data, and I learned from my young son, it has glitched, you know? Things that, yeah, so you know the technology keeps glitching because of the infrastructure we have. And then government promises to provide radio education and learning materials. And I happened to move into a peri-urban area. And then they went to every house sort of documenting who should receive this reading material. And then they were charging people money to photocopy. I also wanted the reading material and said, you're not looking at your house. For you, you're not, what do you mean I'm not entitled? My kids also want to learn. I think you have, but you see, now I could say, okay, I'll photocopy for 10 parents if I have access to the material. You know, you find your way around. And those are some of the things we need to think about, just in summary, but there's a lot in each of those aspects.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Litho. Perhaps we'll get back to the different innovations that continue to happen, and if they speak to the future of the education and the people that we have because of the huge gap, like you rightly said. I want to recognize the presence of Honorable Margaret Ravashaija, who is a member of Parliament and a representative of workers. You're most welcome. All right, I want to cross over to Mr. Bob Owinyi, who is joining us online, direct from Soroti. the production team could give us that. All right, Bob. Good to see you. Can you hear me, Bob? Can you hear me, Bob? Unfortunately, we don't seem to hear you, Bob. Do you wanna unmute your volume or mic? Right, as they get, perhaps we will be speaking to Brenda Namata shortly after Bob to speak to us about the role of media in bringing the education, most especially. We thank you for your support, sir.
Hello.
Hey, Bob.
Hello. Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Good evening. My name is Bobo Win. I am a district councillor in local government council. I am a former district speaker and district councillor representing the youth of district council. I want to thank organizers of this opportunity. It is very important that dialoguing and discussing matters that affect the local people of Uganda, especially the rural people. As we speak about education, one of the things that is that we must put our attention so much to primary education because we can't talk about secondary education without discussing education. Also, emphasis must be put into government schools and private schools because most of them Uganda, especially the children of Ugandans, this government is primary and secondary. And therefore, when we discuss education and attention is discussing about a small percentage of the people and leaving out the bigger percentage of the poor. Now, talking about primary education, UPE policy must review holistically because when you look at it looks at the issue of quantity and not quality. Many children are going to school, the quality of the children who live in school does not match the standard of education. When you look at the number of children P1 at the time their colleagues are saying, assuming 200 P1 this year 2023, 2030 when they're PLOE, you find that they are about 30 or 40. The question then is where do these other children go? If they started in the primary one, now in primary 7 they are less than 40 or 50. Where is the balance? And it's not that they are dead, it's not that they are not defined, that they just put out of the issues that you play in the video. Early pregnancy, teenage pregnancy, early marriages, and those are the factors. Now, for us as local leaders there in the districts, the challenge with UPE is that government, yes.
Thank you. I would like to perhaps ask a question right there. This story of Rebecca seems to be one of the many continue to arise in Soroti and indeed the country. And as a leader, what are the measures that are being? What are you guys doing to fight this big problem in Soroti? Bob?
Please pardon, I cannot hear you, please pardon.
I was asking.
Yes, I can
the
hear
story
you.
of Rebecca is just many of the problems that we continue to see. Child marriage, early pregnancies, and then the effect on the education of these young girls. As leaders, what are you doing? What are the systems that are being put to combat this problem in Soroti?
Now, one of the things we are doing is the awareness creation. We are doing whatever possible to create awareness in the community, public barazas, through local radio station, through social functions, to tell our people and talk about the dangers of early marriages, teenage pregnancies, and marriage of children. But as we also do creation awareness, as also mobilize the people to understand the dangers in these devices that distract organize the education of our children. Government must also central government through the policies of education, because one of the issues is that parents have been told by some leaders from central government that this primary education is totally free. When we the leaders try to mobilize parents to pay money like PTA, to tell parents to support their children, the mindset of our parents is also not good. They believe since UPE is free education, then everything is free, to the level that parents have a mindset of not supporting their own children to ensure that they're at school. These girls are deceived by little money, they're deceived by pads, because if their parents cannot avail pads to them, then of course there's going to be a man or out there who will say, I can give you pads. If the parents are giving children at the time, some parents are saying, instead of me suffering because of poverty, it's better for me to benefit from my girl. Let me marry off my girl and benefit when I'm alive. So it is a question that local leaders to ensure that create awareness, bylaws that are able to support, for example, functions that take place. We are saying should be tied maybe by all these local functions of marriages, weddings, and parties. The student are also getting inside functions. So also working on bylaws that ensure that everything time within these children are not hands of the praise them to save them to stop. Then there are also other challenges. Among other issues that we are doing also to engage the cultural institutions and then also engage the leaders that our message is consistent, ensuring that the campaign is early marriages, early pregnancy, all those things that distort our children. You can travel for the boys, you talk about early marriage, pregnancies and marriages, the young boys also another challenge, much attention, the girl child, attention of the boy child.
Bob, have some of these they yielded some results? Have you seen huge impact as a result of those interventions? All right, Bob doesn't seem to be. I would like to speak a little bit more about the impact of these interventions. Is it something working? All right.
Yes, definitely. Impact is there, not to a desirable percentage. Like from the time, like when I joined the district council in 2016, the rate of pregnancies, early marriages was higher. However, I'm glad to say that the percentages are dropping. But they're dropping slowly. They're not dropping at the rate we expect them to. Because at the time there was a percentage rate of about 60%. Now we are about 48% or something. So I'm glad to say that dropping at a certain time, high also has a subsidy as a district. The rate was so high. With this intervention, social media, the engagement of other stakeholders like the cultural institutions, and also civil society organization. We have tried our best. And now the facilities are growing. We're continuing to work as a district council, working out with the stakeholders to ensure that we completely avoid this vice of early marriages, of drug abuse, and not teenage pregnancies. So that the number of our children in primary, as long as they are alive, is not far from the number that primary examination or universal education exams of UNED.
Thank you so much. Bob joining us from Soroti. Get back to you. Thank you. I'd like to speak to Brenda Namata, who is a journalist with the Uganda Media Women's Association, to speak about the role of media in advancing and speaking about some of these challenges and bringing the same to the national agenda.
Thank you very much. Particular to this, I think the media comes in at a point of responsively reporting on the implementation status of the policies and laws that we have in Uganda that speak to the education sector. Now, in 2015, we had, or the country welcomed the National Strategy on Girls' Education, where this strategy targets to narrow down the gender gaps within the education sector. And it was a blessing that we are going to have in terms of increment of the girl child at enrollment level within the school system, but then also completion and retainment. But to the shock, we realized that with the stories that we saw earlier from Lubani, SS, and the lady that we saw from Soroti, it shocks that in addition to our UN 2022 reporting, which reflects that whereas we have 68% of girls transitioning from primary level into secondary school, only 1 in 3 girls gets to complete school. Now the numbers even grow worse when it comes to the upper secondary education and the university level or the tertiary levels. Now the key point for media here is to come out and spotlight on the limitations that avail within policy implementation or alienate policy from the practice. And then the second bit of it is to have media prioritizing reporting on the limitations that affect retainance or retention of the girl child in school. We saw within the COVID-19 period or the post-COVID-19 period where we saw so many girls, over 23,000 girls getting pregnant within the first 4 months of the COVID period. And we had media having minimal reporting of the countrywide problem that was affecting the girls, but then also their return to school. And the key ask here within retainance of the girl child in school, but also impacting on the education sector is having the media to get to the newsrooms to prioritize education, but then seeing within the marginalized, the very marginalized groups, that is the girl child within the education sector, to see that report on the issues that undermine their retention in school. And then secondly, work towards the solution-based journalism where you provide solutions. How can we retain the girl child in school? And the third issue is that where the media comes in key is inform, educate, and sensitize, the principles of journalism basically. Now, we had the Ministry of Education as well, just like the earlier representative from the ministry addressed that about the new curriculum. We were in shock, and I was part of the people who asked, how are we going to transition from the status quo of Shaka Zulu and Napoleon Bonaparte into a skills-based learning? And very unfortunate that the media did not have strong concentration on educating Ugandans on what this new curriculum is. What are the benefits of this new curriculum? Where are we going to head? What's the future with the new curriculum away from the traditional means of studying as we have had? And then that pointed that now the media needs to start to inform, educate, and sensitize the public around education interventions that come up that target enrollment and at most completion and retention of the girl child in school, but then also other things that widely impact the media sector. And very key to that in the current times is the new curriculum. And for me, I think that at this point, that is where it points to the Ministry of Education and the responsible actors, that can you draw the media into these conversations? Get the media to have their cameras into this, make them understand, and then the media gets to educate the public about these issues. But also away from that, the other issue is that the media to challenge the social norms that affect the continuity of the girl child within school. Now we have had one of the issues, the lady who came from Soroti, and he mentioned why this girl dropped out of school or the teenage pregnancy. Among the issues that we had was poverty. the other issues that we have in that the negative cultural norms that are embedded within the society that this girl child is coming from, that it hinders her, one, either to be within school, or if a challenge has come up, she simply discontinues her engagement in school. Where is the media in this? Challenge the negative social norms. Can we have news stories that you're disseminating out there being survivor-centered, in the sense that how are you presenting this girl child who has got a challenge, to say, of teenage pregnancy? How are you bringing her up into the public, but then the public to mean the community? How are you educating them into, one, avoiding or prevention of these challenges to the girl child, but then secondly, seeing that you retain this girl child by addressing the environmental factors that would rather affect the girl from being in school? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Many thanks indeed. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to Imanishimwe Ronald, who is from the Uganda Youth Forum under the Ministry of Sports. Sorry?
Not the government.
Not government. Clearly, these two stories that we watched draw lessons for us and paint a picture of what is in rural areas of this country, and perhaps triggers us to find some of the solutions, don't you?
Thank you so much. At one time I was in Nairobi for an interview. It's called the Acumen Leadership. They were looking for 20 people from the whole of East Africa. And they asked me, if you became president for one day, what would you do in Uganda? And I told them that I would change the education system. And I am glad to report that I passed, although I am not yet president this side. I wanted to really emphasize on what the two colleagues at first said in terms of the education system. In my view, I feel that the education system is working as was designed. Because sometimes we think the system is broken. And whenever I teach people in adaptive leadership, I tell them there's no such thing as a broken system. You just have to say who are the winners and losers in that system. And for our education system, colonially was designed to be who we are. We speak good English, theorize, analyze, go home and sleep. That's it. So the British that designed this system must be very happy. We are clerks, we are typists, we are people who can write and speak good English in some accents, but at the end of the day, we are supposed to export raw materials and import finished products. This is who we are. Whether you are an engineer, the doctor told you, he saw a dark room when he went to UMI. Is that correct? Yes, but he had been to one of the best universities ranked in Africa. That's the tragedy that we have. So we can here pretend, say a lot of things, but even review the lower curriculum and do all those things. But I think we must start from a clean slate. I saw that girl who was moving on a bicycle. And I think the journalist did a very powerful report, by the way. Thank you so much. Plotting that distance on a bicycle. If I was her teacher in geography, why can't she get an A in geography? Why? You saw when it came to articulating herself in class, she somehow struggled. So she may be called a failure. Somebody who can navigate all those corners on a bicycle, you say she can't have an A? So, at the end of the day, we are assessing people, and the media is always there. These are the best students. Here, you waste our time. You have stigmatized the students. Parents now at school, if you have a student, because now they have sent out to success cards. So everyone is asking you, how did she perform? How did he perform? Now, if it's not the A student, according to this, assessing you for swimming when you are really meant for climbing mountains. So now we are there traumatized, fearing to explain how our children have performed. But why can't that girl get an A in geography? Navigating the rains, knowing how. So for me, really, I think, and it depresses me. It depresses me. Somebody was asking, I was saying, by the way, there are some radical, we're talking about solution journalism. There are some radical solutions that we can say. For example, if we could say,
and the members of parliament are here, we could say any person who works for government, make sure your child goes to a government school. The problems you see will be fixed. Because if a minister's child is dropped in Uganda Road, he will make sure that the teachers are there. These things used to happen. And it's as simple as that. If I know that when I fall sick, I will not be allowed to fly abroad for treatment, I will ensure that Murago is working. So the solutions are here. We don't have to bring in experts and spend a lot of time doing. Let's pass a law. We say it is voluntary to work with the government. If you don't want, work with the private sector. But the moment you choose to work with the government, you must consume government services, including education and health. We shall all be happy. Finally, you talked about what can we do. Really, for us, every time we say these are stories, but these are destinies of people that are shattered. And I think my sister here talked about the socio-cultural norms that are very entrenched, by the way. They are so entrenched and that predispose us, and especially the young girls, to the risk of dropping out of schools and all that. And I'm saying, if you are a man here, I want to speak to the men. I see some of you are young and you are not yet married. Guys, fatherhood is a responsibility. It is not fun. And if you know you are not ready to take care of your child, do not move around planting seeds. Do not. It's a responsibility, and I think it is a failure of the patriarchal society. It is a failure. We have not defended our children. You have seen now, the father was chasing away the young girl. And I think the MC said now, I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think we really have a role to take. We need to protect our girls. We need to look at the vulnerability at home. We need to look at the issues they face from home to school along the way. And when they're in school, what kind of environment, how conducive is it for our girls to stay in school and be able to complete? And I think also the men, I would say some time back, there was a lot of focus on the girl child. I think the civil society is very misplaced. We need to also look at the boy child. We need to create, the boys can bully a girl if she's in her menstruation period, if she stamps on her chair, then you make fun, and that stigmatizes her, she may never come back. So even the boys have a role to play to ensure that we can support our brothers, we can support our sisters, and all of us win it together. I thank you.
Wow. Quite powerful submissions right there. But I think for me, my take home from your submission is the huge gap between the haves and the have-nots in society. And the education that is supposed to be the equalizer, we have continued to see gaps.
Something. I see our friend here, Philbert Waguma. When he was fighting for the teachers and the arts teachers, he was alone. The pressure was too much on him. So now we know the teachers said, let's go back and do what? And teach. We don't know whether government is pretending to teach them, to spare, and the teachers also pretending to what? To teach. So it is our responsibility. We cannot leave it to, because he talked about the parents must be involved really in the education system. We cannot leave it to the Wagumas of this world to stand alone, because they may not withstand the pressure. But if collectively we say, make sure that you teach, pay our teachers for them to be able to do this job.
All right, thank you. I would like to open it up to the audience, but perhaps in just a second, Baguma, if we could speak about the privatization of the sector and its impact on the education of this country.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is not only privatization, but it is privatization and commercialization of education. Because we don't see this only in private education institutions, but it has even gone to the government aided. You find a student is going back to school and the parent is packing as if you are going to start a supermarket. You know, you have to carry sugar, toilet paper, you have brooms, and so on. And this is a child who is going to school and has paid school fees. Now, we cannot stop private education institutions, but government has deliberately done it this way. Not funding public schools to create room for the private institutions to flourish. You hear the rhetoric that public schools are not performing, but that is where the public stops. How much is government investing in these schools? In a UPE school, government is paying around 20,000 per child per year. That translates into less than 80 shillings per day. Now, I want you to imagine 80 shillings per day and what you expect this child to get at the end of the day. And this child is competing with another child who is paying 2 million per term. So it is, here is meat, don't cook it, don't roast it, but I want it ready. And that has promoted privatization and commercialization in our education institutions, thus denying Ugandans their right to education. You find the parents and guardians are all facing in one direction. Reason, they are looking for better grades. But better grades do not tantamount to quality education. SDG 4 talks about inclusive education, equitable education, and which should not only be inclusive and equitable, but should be of quality, and should promote lifelong learning opportunities. And therefore, as Ugandans, we must demand that the government funds public education. There is no reason why the children from the poorest of the poor should not have education in a government-aided school where government is putting resources. If a government fails to invest in education, then forget about the middle income status. That will be the dreaming. Developed countries have invested in education. And therefore, without that, we are wasting time as a country. When you look at the girl child, yes, true, very many stakeholders have focused on the girl child education. But even up to date, if I had space, I would have brought to you those who have gone back to school. Because as Uganda National Teachers Union, we have a project called Simameni. We are in 4 districts in Teso and 4 districts in Western. In Teso, we are in Serere, Ngora, Bukedia, and Kumi. In Bukedia, there was a team called Team No Sleep. You know, there are trailers which park along that road. Girls were leaving school and going to that team. Now, we empowered these girls. And these girls have gone back to school. And these girls are carrying the message. These girls are empowered. I have a girl in Kamwenge in the refugee school. The parents wanted to marry her off Rwamwanja Secondary School. And the girl said, I am not ready for marriage. She's still in school. But that is the empowerment we are talking about. We are looking at these children. We think and assume that these children come from homes where they are parents. We have very few parents. The others are fathers and mothers. And they are not parents. And therefore, they cannot do the parenting. So, if we don't have good parenting in homes, we don't expect these children to go to schools and perform better. So, it is upon us. And the media sometimes is very funny. I took the media when I was going to distribute materials to support the girl child. I was distributing reusable sanitary pads, face masks. We were giving girls scholastic materials, hand washing facilities to bring them back to school. Guess what was reported? Along the way, they asked me, how far have you gone with the government on salary? That is what was reported. But the issue that had taken us to the field was distribution of materials to support the girl-child education. And therefore, the media is called upon also in the reporting. We need to improve the reporting. Otherwise, sometimes what should inform the citizens about what is going on is not reported. Possibly we need to get it from you, the media people, what makes news. So that we get to know when we should invite you and when we should not. Otherwise, sometimes some of the things go unnoticed because the media will go there, but will not capture the essence of the function. I thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that our time is fast spent, and this is why you get to talk back to us. In case you have a question or submission, kindly raise your hand. We will pick you. You can introduce yourself and then speak to us. If there is any of the panelists that you'd like to speak directly or answer to your question, kindly make that known as well. All right, guys, this is why you raise your hand in case you have any question. Julius here, the MC, will be kind enough to come to you, and then we will hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Rauni Namhura from Teach for Uganda. This one goes to Mr. Waguma. What has been done to ensure that, he talked of it being a mandate of the parent and the government to ensure that our children get education. We work in rural communities and we realize that majority of these key stakeholders who are the parents in education do not know their role. What is being done to ensure that these parents understand their mandate towards education? And my other comment is, so many times we are raising the girl child, a good girl, for the wrong boys. Because so much we're saying girl child education. We're here to talk about education. I am a woman and I appreciate the importance of education. But where is the boy child? We're talking about education, we're always saying girl child education. What about the boy child? Because for us to ensure that the girl child gets quality education, I do believe that we have to bring on the boy children to ensure that the girl child also receives that quality education.
Thank you. Thank you. We will just take one question from the chosen members. Because of time, kindly ask one question. Thank you. There is a gentleman over there.
Thank you. My name is Huntington from Siatin, Uganda. Let me stand. I'm short enough that you can't see when I'm seated, so let me stand. So my name is Huntington from Siatin, Uganda. We are a think tank and also an NGO working on trade and fiscal-related policies. Allow me to I should have asked a question, but let me submit. Education must touch the heart, the hands, and the mind. As we are talking about these so many things, people need to have skills. What are the important skills right now for us as Uganda? We can't have all the skills for a starter. One of the most important things we're looking at as Uganda, currently our biggest earner is agriculture. Can we transform that agriculture to using ICT and other things? I believe those are the low-hanging fruits. That's where we should start from. Secondly, education must communicate value. We will struggle and continue to struggle if we tell people to take their children to school and they are seeing the children who are in Kampala not having jobs, not having what to do. They will still marry off their children. So how then do we translate it to be a thing of value? Education having value, giving people jobs, allowing them to create for themselves by giving them these necessary skills. Finally, I think as media people,
One
as people in
question.
the space of media.
One question.
Oh, can I?
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. I am Samuel Ejoku. I work for the New Vision, based in Soroti office. I edit news. So I'm basically coming to deliver on, kindly bear with me, on 3 items. One, we have run away from the fact that, and we have continued comparing, that the education of long ago was so solid. It was producing a competent person and key to the morals. Today, that's not happening. And we are not answering the question, who is to be held responsible? One of the leaders was deliberating. I was hearing him talk. And was saying, most of the leaders have taken course in ensuring that children are motivated to get back to school. But most of the learners who are dropping out of school and getting pregnant out of school, and even the schools where they are studying, the parents have run away from their responsibility. We are sure of the fact that there is a provision in the Education Act 2005, I'm very conversant about it, which mandates the parents to contribute in helping government in education by contributing the PTA. Today, as we talk, it has been politicized. Now, remember, the parents are having the mandate to support government by employing some of the teachers to back up the ceiling. But now politicians are coming saying, we cannot have you pay that money, it's the responsibility of government. But we are crying that government is running away from the responsibility when we are having also as a stake as parents. I would implore, in my suggestion going forward, one of the key aspects probably as the media that we must invest in is to go into the data journalism aspect, informed with the graphics.
Thank you so much.
Because one, it will help us to come up with the figures and the statistics, which will help us to get informed of how many learners are suffering outside there because of the dilapidated buildings that have actually failed to access school because of the long distance. I have statistics, I would have given you the breakdown, but because of the
Thank you so much. We really appreciate.
We would really discuss.
Thank you.
Desired.
Thank you. All right, thank you for those submissions right there. We will have the last question.
Thank you very much. My name is Katwangole Arnold. I deal with literature elements of speech and writing and an affiliate of the law. Journalist pursuing. Thank you very much. Listening for the very time that the discussion was commencing. I have a submission and a question towards the end. And this is what I have to say, that we're here talking about education. At the start of the conversation, Julia said that, do we think education is still the key to success, as many said? One of the great people that I as a Pan-Africans think, Luther King said that creativity and innovation comes from education. Nelson Mandela said that a son of a miner can become a mine manager through education, and a son of a farmer and a peasant can become a president of a great nation like South Africa through education. Tupac Shakur, through his lines, say that, I want to learn, but I want to be consulted on what I learn. But up to date, nobody has given me a rule book for that. We're asking the teachers, Dr. Philbert and Dr. there, have you given the students the rule book, or you just pursuing out programs for them to go to school as a matter? Dr. Margaret, I have a question for you. You were at Namasagali sometime as a student. You were at Ruby SS, you were at Chitante Hill as a teacher. Do you think the education system you went through is still the education system today? Probably not. The colonialist, probably Governor Frederick Crawford, where he is lying, he's very happy that we've messed up his education. That the imperialists left for us an education, and they left you an option to change it since we are independent. We've not done so. 1997, the NRM government into power comes in with the Education Service Commission. The Education Service Commission, and still 1997-98, we come up with the UPE. 2007-2008, we come up with the USE. We come up with the AMIS. We come up with the lower secondary curriculum 2019-2020. But hey, have these served their purposes? We as the government, have they put the correct legislation? We are here talking about education as a priority. 2021, its budget was cut by 3.0. And in 2023, the budget coming up, it's cut still to 6.0. Are we going forward or we are going back? It's like the government has left education only to clean its hands to sanitize themselves that they have provided money, but it's not working. We as the journalists, our role, I think, is to put these people to account, to checks and balance, that they should provide incentives or what we call our real basic needs, time, rather than only putting them as sanitizable things and they can live on. I beg to rest my case.
Thank you. And I can't agree with you more. I think that there's so much that we can do. But because of time, I'm afraid the panelists may not get to answer some of these questions here. However, we will have them in the break-off sessions that we will be having. And so this brings us to the very end of our conversation. Thank you so much for having been a good audience. And thank you to my panelists. And I will invite Bella Twine to take it on from here. My name is Rahim Nwali, and goodbye.
A very big round of applause for Nwali and his team of panelists. Thank you so much, Nwali, for conducting that session. It was very insightful, very educational, especially from Brenda, who highlights how solutions can be encouraged in different communities to enable the girl child go to school and actually make a life out of themselves, right? So in this session, it's going to be a town hall discussion. Yes, this is a town, so we're going to all offer solutions to these problems that we've all been mentioning. We're going to stop pointing fingers. Yes, it's important, but also as a community, what other solutions can we offer so that these can be taken up? I have my colleagues. Moses, are you here? Moses? Moses, Isaac, Patricia. They will be taking notes, and then we will be sharing these solutions with the different stakeholders so that we see some changes, right? So one of the things that we want to highlight and also take charge of is school dropouts, right? So how are we going to tackle school dropouts? As media organizations, as political stakeholders, also as civil society organizations, what are we going to do in order to tackle school dropouts? This is an open question. Everybody is open to participate. The students at the back have been quiet, so I want you to participate and tell us what we can do in order to get these children back to school. But also in our midst, we have very, very many innovators who have innovated for the educational sector. Teach for Uganda, Boundless Minds, and many, many others. So we implore you to contribute and tell us what solutions have worked for you and how can they be replicated over and over again. I have my mic runner, who is Amos over there. So let's start. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is David Moses Okelo, aka DMO. I learned from her. I work as head of programs at Teach for Uganda, and I'll share in response to the very great question around solutions to school dropouts. So as Teach for Uganda, we run a fellowship. We call it Teaching as Leadership Fellowship, where we place graduates as well as government teachers to improve the learning outcomes of children, especially in foundational classes, P1 to P3. But this year we are also piloting the secondary level, where our focus is on CPDs, or continuous professional development, for implementation of the lower secondary curriculum. Now, one of the initiatives that we have in the fellowship is home visits. So all our teachers are expected to visit the parents. In the rural schools, we don't love to use that word rural. We use the word low income, because even in Kampala, where we are, we have communities with low income. And so in the low-income communities, we are able to engage. We try to bridge the gap between the school and the community. And we do that by our fellows engaging the parents, conducting home visits. So if you have 200 learners, by the end of an academic year, we expect that you are able to visit each and every parent of these 200 learners in the community. And the conversations you're having is on supporting the education of their children. And so issues around absenteeism, for example, if you see a girl or boy has been absent for the last 3 days, so during that home visit, you interact with the parent to know why is my child so and so not in class. And so home visits is one of the approaches we are using, and we are promoting even for government teachers to adopt that. If you have learners in your class, are you able to interact with the parents of these learners quite often, so that we close that gap between the school and the community. So it's one of the approaches that we employ.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So any other submission? I want submissions. Please keep it short because we're out of time.
Hello. Yeah, I want to compliment my brother over there on what we can do to make sure that we curb down the dropouts. Now, back in the region I come from, Wenzoi region, and particularly I'm talking about the administrative units of Kabarore district, Fort Poto, Kenjojo, Kamwenge, and so on, to mention but a few. We have gone on to train a community infrastructure that we call civic educators. Now, we all should know that some of these problems that we are actually interfacing with are as a result of low civic competence within the communities. Now, the civic educators are trained in such a way that they can be able to continuously train the community members on social gatherings within their churches, within the schools, to make sure that the girl child is actually kept in school. And not to mention, we should understand that actually the biggest problem, for example, when you go to districts of Kasese and Toroko, they are hit so much with child pregnancies. And it is also a cultural vice. So to counter this, we are using the civic educators, but also we are using another infrastructure which we are calling community-based facilitators. Now, these people have got a noble role that upon completion of the training, and by the way, they are trained in very many aspects, not limited to leadership and accountability, education, good governance and service delivery, and so on, to mention but a few. Now, when they go back, they are supposed to make sure that they are watchdogs in the community. They are looking at issues of education in schools. How are the teachers faring? In fact, should they find like a teacher taking alcohol during day, it becomes a real serious community case that they will begin themselves advocating from that level and onwards. For purposes of time, I guess I'll cut
I
it
think
short.
I'll give it to Honorable Margaret to say something as well, to offer a solution to this issue.
Thank you very much. I've already been introduced, so I don't want to go back to that. Only that at Parliament, I chair the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Quality Education. On the issues that we are talking about, let me talk about a high dropout rate. I think we have been so lenient. For example, we are talking about those big numbers of the people, of the learners, pupils who dropped out of school because of early pregnancy. But you find that when you read, I read the papers so much, and here I'm also faulting the journalists. We have not been updated whether these people who made the girls become pregnant and dropped out of school, we have not had any court case. Do those big people pay money and we are silent about it? We don't hear anything because nothing has been done about those people who should be culprits. Now, we are just lenient, we are not talking about anything, and that's why it is fizzling out, and many other girls are becoming pregnant. So this is a challenge to all of us, journalists, parents, and also the government. We are concerned. I've not had any case where they say this. Someone even was on TV, and they told us that this man you see here, he impregnated 18 girls during COVID, but nothing was done. Another one, I think, was from Uganda. He was even posing. He said, you know, this young girl, yes, I'm responsible for the pregnancy. She delivered about a week ago. But I was disappointed when she went to look to get her results. She had not performed well.
So what are the solutions that
the solution should be that there should be naming and shaming of these people? That's when people will get scared and say, I don't want to be like the other person. And also we should know if they are being taken to court. I'm not talking about the tribal court where people sit as a family and say, you bring 2 goats and that's enough. That's what is happening. So we have taken it so lightly. That's why the children have dropped out of school. And then the other one, what is it that we can do about the the high dropout rate because of people who come or register in very big numbers? We get 1,300,000 at primary 1, and then when it comes to P7, 600,000. Pupils in P6 were allowed to sit exams. And so those numbers we are not counting, but every paper I was reading, we are celebrating that at least now we have increased in numbers. But the high dropout rate has continued to be very, very low, and it's embarrassing. One time I saw something in the newspaper where they were saying children have dropped out in a Busoga area. I will not mention specifically, 2 districts. We had to move there as a forum. We went to the schools and looked at the dropout rate because they put it on the head teacher's office. You see, in first term, they were at this number. In third term, the numbers had dwindled in about 4 or 5 schools, where you find in one of them they is in charge of children. Then we met also the parents. The parents said, no, for us we don't have money, and our children, they help us because when they go and cut sugar cane and they load, then they bring money for soap and for other things at home. So many of us are responsible for what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. I'll give it to the lady over there to say something. We're going to have one more response, and then we'll go to the next question.
Hello.
Hi.
Out. I think the best thing that we can do is stop the stereotyping about academics. Academics, you'll just have your paper and you'll put it there, but that paper will not feed you. Let's get out and get very practical. What can we do? What can you do as a person? You can dig, you can clean the room, you can do creatives with your phone and earn money, you can sell, you can do anything. These things of paperwork in my 20 years journey after school, actually when I'm looking for people to employ, I don't look at the paperwork. I look at the attitude that you have when you come. And, you have to do journalism, you have to go to law school, you all have to be doctors. I mean, the interns are complaining. They don't even earn 1.5 million shillings. And yet someone who is doing business in cleaning is earning that in a month. So why don't we get out and do what needs to be done and forget about the paperwork? Get the girl child down there. I remember when we were in primary, we used to do weaving. We used to do baskets. We used to do rugs. We used to do soap. What happened to all these things? We're just telling the children, please get a 4. Will the 4 feed you? It won't feed you. So I think we need to have a whole mindset change about this education thing and say it doesn't work for us Africans. Let's just calm down and be who we are, and we will be able to achieve this in future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Who has a burning solution that has never been mentioned before, that we have not heard of before? Yes, please.
One, two.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and to mention that one of the solutions we are looking at as Nimarunji is to ensure that we are making use of data to eradicate education inequality. But that's something that we've been talking about, so I'll delve maybe on the other part of our solution that I feel is very
solutions. Like Nimarunji, what she's doing, how can that be done 10 times over in different communities and elsewhere? Yes, please. Hands, anybody?
There's a mic.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. My name is Kola Abuko from Fabio. Our niche is a bicycle. So we use a bicycle for transformation, for access to school. That's how we address the challenge of access to school for students, for our pupils in Busoga. So we work mostly in Busoga sub-region, but we look at retention as key to our community. Our first thing that we looked at, how can we contribute towards education, was the girl child. But at the end of that day, we discovered that the boy child was left behind. We introduced the safeguarding policy and safeguarding in community. Safeguarding involves the stakeholders, the education system, the people in the community, the education, and then it involves the community leaders themselves. It involves all of them, even the borders themselves, the people who stay in that very village are involved. And then it involves also we ourselves and the parents themselves. Through the community meetings we engage, we have dialogue with the community. How can we support our children to achieve quality education? How can we achieve retention?
So how can we take Fabio from wherever it is to Gulu, Karamoja, and all these other communities?
How can we take Fabio to these other places? It's through community dialogues that we will support the grassroots, the structures that are existent, to make them stronger and much better to influence education and have retention. Thank you.
Okay. Any other solutions?
Yes.
Boundless minds? Solutions? Not yet?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Kayanja. I work with Read to Learn Foundation. We empower communities in their diversities to create solutions on ground by themselves. So one of the solutions that we have, I'll just do quick on that one. We empower young people to be the literacy champions within the communities where they come from. So we train young people who later become the trainers of the younger children. And our niche is early childhood development and foundational learning.
So how do we take that elsewhere?
Yes. The solution is that we think how to take this elsewhere is having enough funds and putting up policies that can help early childhood centers that can bring up young people at a very early age and empower foundational learning in different areas of the country. And the media can always amplify on these projects than amplifying on projects that really do not bring much development. When a dog bites a human being, that's not news. When a human being bites a dog, that's news. Let's transform this into something, projects that really bring out sense to the communities for people to grow. And media has a very, very strong position of changing things across the country, even across the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd love to continue, but time is up. A big shout out to all these solutions that are making a difference. Teach for Uganda, Boundless Minds, Enjuba, Year Solutions, Nimarunji, Girl Up Initiative, and all of you who have been here with us. If you've not gotten a chance to speak, please look for solutions now. They'll come and document your story. But at this juncture, please help me welcome Abbas Mpindi, the CEO, Media Challenge Initiative.
Thank you. Please clap for Bella, everyone. Clap for ourselves. Thank you so much. I hope that you've had very to raise money or even to attract, support, because it's credibility. And that's where it comes back to the role of the media in terms of spotlighting the different solutions that you're discussing here. The conversation is bigger than just solutions. We have to find more time to continue with this. What my team also has, proposed is an accelerated series of activities that we'll be doing alongside this dialogue. We will communicate when and what issue we'll be having. One other thing that we also want to do is to reach out to the different, stakeholders, members of parliament, organizations to partner with us on amplifying this dialogue even stronger and even much better. So I hope that, when we reach out to the different organizations, that you can also come on board and partner with us. Thank you once again to DW Academy, to BMC, and to all of you for coming here today. We do have a cocktail. We end with drinks and some baits, and then we also want you to stay here and network and talk to each other. So as you move out from here at the reception, you will find also the innovations from different innovators who are working in education are being showcased outside. For those who want to stay in this room, we'll be continuing to play education stories that have been covered by our newsroom. Thank you so much, and please, this is home. Keep coming. Have a good evening.
Ori mugaga ya zaabu ndi Muganda. Kyennekakasa nti asirika yeewala bingi era ne w'okisoma mu bitabo okiraba bulungi. Lewonsojja n'obugambo bunkuddemu oba nkusonge mu bindwazo omutima guluma okusirika z'empeke nze zemmira. Kyennekakasa nti asirika yeewala bingi era ne w'okisoma mu bitabo okiraba bulungi. Lewonsojja n'obugambo bunkuddemu oba nkusonge mu bindwazo omutima guluma okusirika z'empeke nze zemmira. Asirise teyejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama ky'olizuula manya mu besigwa ofunayo paakingi. Weewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi. Asirise teyejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima. Asirise teyejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama ky'olizuula manya mu besigwa ofunayo paakingi. Weewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi. Asirise teyejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima. Tosimatuka ebyama byo olulimi lufuge toyogera ebiyitira manya ekituufu gy'oli tukirabira ku bigambo byo. Ayogedde ki olwokyogereko ki sooka omanye tofuuka ensonga lwaki abantu bakyawagana olw'ebigambo byo. Asirise tiyekusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama ky'olizuula manya mu besigwa ofunayo paakingi. Weewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi. Asirise teyejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima. Okutegeera tekulina ddoboozi omukebe omukalu gwe guwaawala. Tegeera ensonga yaffe tetukukugira kwogera naye bw'oba yonna sooka osirike. Asirise teyejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama ky'olizuula manya mu besigwa ofunayo paakingi. Weewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi. Asirise teyejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima. Asirise teyejjusa okusirika kulimu sampingi ekyama ky'olizuula manya mu besigwa ofunayo paakingi. Weewala okwogera ennyo kubanga kuzaala bingi. Asirise teyejjusa ebigambo ebingi tebigula mutima. Waliwo abakaaba ekiro kubanga basalawo bubi kyekibabuzisa otulo. Kati olw'egguloggulo mu kawungeezi k'obulamu bwabwe lwe bajjukira ensobi. So nga waliwo akaseera k'okusalawo ekituufu obudde bw'abayitako tebudda. Tebaali tebamanyi bw'okitegedde nga bukyali kubanga bangi b'endaba okukuza olubuto wakiralituga. Waliwo abakaaba ekiro kubanga basalawo bubi kyekibabuzisa otulo. Kati olw'egguloggulo mu kawungeezi k'obulamu bwabwe lwe bajjukira ensobi. So nga waliwo akaseera k'okusalawo ekituufu obudde bw'abayitako tebudda. okukuza olubuto wakira lutuga bisaana mu choice bamukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuula olabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenpimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bikusukako lwakuba osalawo okulwanira ebingi ebitayamba n'ebibi bisiŋŋana mwattu leka kulimbibwa nti oyinza okula ensi n'ogimalawo tekisoboka okufa manya eba choice yokwe okulwana n'okuba zikusanze anti ye choice gyokoze bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuula olabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenpimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuula olabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenpimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu enkola choice yange bisaana mu choice bamukukwatagana obulamu bulinga kaddayisiko olina okusuula olabe tosobola kunnyogoga ng'ate n'obuguma zenpimapima ensonga zange mu buli kimu n'enkola choice yange
Now, hear this.
Great music, great vibes from DJ Swizmac, the humble DJ.